Hi, everybody. My name is Laila. I am a corporate risk lawyer, and I have been one for about 15 years now. I was born and raised in Dubai. My family is still there. And I moved here in 2018. So this is my third year here, I think. And my divorce came through in the same year. Custody came through a year after. And it was a really, really challenging time for me, but I knew there was a need for the support group, and I started the support group in November 2019. And it's been an extension of my need or interest in advocacy as a lawyer. And I never expected it to be anything that it is today, but it's blown up and it's getting a lot of support. And we have many single parents in our group now. So, and I also am a yoga teacher. I just started teaching yoga today.
I saw your page and I was really very impressed by the work you are doing. So what was your motivation, towards starting this page?
Divya, when I moved here, I just felt like there was no support, zero. There was a huge gaping hole. Nobody was willing to talk about it. Even when I was getting into the divorce, so you have to understand that when I moved here, I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know anybody here, and the only other person that I knew was my now ex-husband. So you can imagine how that situation was. I didn't have any friends here. I didn't have my usual, support groups or creature comforts. Nothing. So I always would be like, who do I talk to about this? Because ultimately, see, when you're going through something which is a huge life-changing event, you need community. You need people that you can relate to and who you can just talk to about what is happening in your life, and that wasn't there. So when I came here, I did what everybody else does. I got on Google and I was searching everywhere for some desi support group, for brown people, because
Yeah.
that relatability aspect is there, right? But
Mm.
there was nothing, zero, not even a conversation or a running narrative, nothing. It was bereft. So it was a huge gaping hole. And I decided, okay, you know what? If I need to have a community, maybe if I have to build it myself, so be it. So I just sat
Yeah.
down and I started. And again, like I said, I had no expectation from it. There was no support to even start the support group, because by the time it was November and I was ready to start, I had already met a few people here. Okay, so I already started making a few friends, meeting a few people, and among those people were single parents, and even they were not willing to really open up to me and share their own
Mm-hmm.
experiences, and they were ashamed of it, and they were telling me, no, Lala, don't do it. People are not going to support you or follow you. So I was confused, because I don't come from that background where I have to be ashamed of what is going on in my life. And I said, no, I am not ashamed of being divorced or being a single parent, and if I have to be here for whatever period of time, I'm going to make my life comfortable. Okay, if anybody wants to
Mm-hmm.
join it or not, that is their wish, but I will start a community, and that community will be a platform for single parents to have this
Yeah.
conversation in comfort and without judgment. So that was my only
Yes.
motivation to start the support group, to provide a platform, so that tomorrow if someone like me searches online for something, they find something, they find me, at least, at the very least.
So in your initiative of, starting this community, you must have met by now a lot of parents, single parents. So in your experience, what are those biggest challenges faced by single parents today?
Now, if I have to talk about one or two specific stigmas, that would be doing a whole disservice to how bad the situation actually is, because the stigma is all encompassing. I think it just covers every aspect of your life. I mean, there's no respite, So I think, like, whether it's work, whether it's corporate, whether it's public policies, protective policies, family, community, society, friendships, schools, inclusivity, everything takes a hit,
Yeah.
so there's no one or other stigma that I can really say is more bigger than the other. Everything is there, everything is a daily struggle. And I think, if I really have to think about it, I think it's because marriage is so important in our culture, okay, that there's so much around it. And I've spoken to people, younger kids, and they're all conditioned to be married. If you want a family or a family feeling, you have to be married, or
Mm-hmm.
there's no other route around that. So when you get out of it, there is no support, nothing. There's nobody who knows
Yeah.
how to deal with that situation of being not married, whatever the situation led up to that point. So it was this stigma is there everywhere, starting from your own family, like I said. So that is one massive stigma, because a lot of people stay married because they know the consequence is, the repercussion is that everything is going to be taken away from you. That is the gun on your head. That if you leave your
Yeah.
marriage, you're going to lose X, Y, and Z, which is literally your entire life, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of people I know stay married because of those fears, of those repercussions. So the stigma, if I have to say like one or two, it's just a disservice. Everything is stigmatized, everything down to playground politics where kids are bullied because they don't have fathers. Basic, like leave the kids alone. No, like even your kids are singled out, and schools don't give you
Yeah.
admission. So it affects everything you want to do with your life, which other people do normally, but we have to be questioned and be traumatized and triggered at every point. So the stigmas are just, it's one big it's one big bubble of
Yeah.
stigmas. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lawyer, and advocacy is a huge part of what I like to do. So I do a lot of pro bono work. So I do a lot of free work for people who can't afford legal services even. And I don't physically go to courts because single parents are everywhere. They're all around the world now. But I give them advice, and I give them, the correct advice, because as it turns out, a lot of lawyers also do the whole roundabout around law. So we are actually another single mom who's a friend of mine also in our group, Ruhi. We are starting a law firm powered by the
Mm-hmm.
village, because I am frankly very tired of just giving advice, and it worries me when I can't be available at the time when they need me. It's so
Yeah.
I just want to make it more streamlined. So we're going to do that. So we're going to be just exclusive services for divorced and single moms, or not divorced, whatever circumstance, but specifically for single moms. The
Yeah.
other services we provide, and I'll tell you why community is important, single parent communities, because we have women who are doctors, who are SLD educators, like so, and there's women in all fields, teachers, and so they put
Yeah.
forward their services for other single parents, and they're doing it
Mm-hmm.
out of the goodness of their heart. They're not charging for it. I've told them, if you want to charge, if it's a lot of work, that is up to you. You can,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't want to. They want to actually help each other. So that, I think, the services is not what I'm providing, it's what the entire community is giving to each other. And ultimately that is what a greater community should do, is that we should be allowed to
Yeah.
be a part of the bigger community. But I think that eventually it will happen, hopefully. But as of now, we're just sort of building our own community, which is something like the existing community, but is
Yeah.
also outside of it. I think in this situation, in this question that's asked, is that in India specifically,
Yes.
there is a very unfair bias towards women when it comes to custody. I won't say that during divorce, but during custody, there is an unfair bias. So a lot of fathers, even when they're sincere, they risk losing visitation, even, basic visitation,
Yeah.
because moms, you hold that as a gun on their heads, like, if you don't give me money. Lot, that it's a majority thing that I'm seeing over here. It's a pattern, it's conditioning, it comes from people standing behind you and telling you, don't let him off the hook. That, even though the husband
Mm.
probably doesn't have anything to do with what happened, but
Yeah.
see, I get it. It's conditioning. You want to blame someone, so you blame your ex-husband and you make him suffer for something that you imagine you did not deserve. So men, I mean, all the single fathers that I have spoken to across the board have told me that they are terrified of losing
Mm.
access to their children, and that is something that mothers don't have. Their mothers have a whole other area of concerns and fears, but single fathers have this very common thing between them, is that they're terrified, because their ex-wives are threatening them with pulling children away, and blaming
Yeah.
them of abuse, because any false case of abuse against the father means he's going to suffer for it for the rest of his life, and people do that. So I think that is the one thing that men suffer more than women do, and I think it's an unfair bias. The legal
Mm-hmm.
system has to sort that out, and so that, because
Mm-hmm.
ultimately it's about the kid. Custody, divorce is between the parents, and custody is about the kid. So it has to be a very neutral eye towards that.
So actually, if I come down to a little bit about, your life in general, so how have you dealt with the demise of your marriage and, to move into a space of co-parenting with your ex?
Like I said, 2018 was a was a horrific year for me, because I moved here, and it was difficult. It was all over difficult for me, adjusting and comfort and all of that. But I think, like I said, I didn't have a lot to unpackage in terms of stigma because I was not raised here, so I don't have the the religious burden. Like a lot of
Yeah.
single moms have to do that. They have to unpackage a lot. That there's religious conditioning, there's family conditioning. So I didn't have any of that to deal with. But
Mm-hmm.
my unpackaging that I had to do was very personal stuff. So very dark stuff. So I had to sit with it, and I had to really overly traumatize myself because these are things that I didn't know about myself, right? Because when you're taken out of your comfort zone, a lot of things come to the forefront, which you probably didn't have to deal with before. Like my codependency issues, my relationship patterns, lack of boundaries, heavy
Yeah.
stuff, which I never was even aware of, a month before I moved here. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was a very personal journey. Like I completely broke. You know, like if it like I tell single moms, I don't tell them obviously because each person's struggle is different. But I think about it, and I'm like, if I was given that option to unpackage religion, society, and then get to myself, that would have been
Yeah.
better because dealing with yourself is the most difficult thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I completely disintegrated in 2018. I don't know, I was a mess. I was having like breakdowns, and but for some reason I was also having some lucidity because I was able to raise my kid. So I was a high functioning anxious or psychotic, I don't know what, but I was very high functioning. I
Mm-hmm.
always was. So it was just to unpackage myself and just be calm and just take it as it comes. So I think 2018 was when I filed for divorce. I got my divorce December 2018, and I went to Dubai for a month. And I remember thinking in Dubai that when I go back, because
Yeah.
if I go back and when I go back, because I had to come back and file for custody, I will leave all of my baggage behind, and I will
Mm-hmm.
never address it again. It's over. I'll forgive myself and move on and see how this goes forward. So for me,
Yeah.
it was very strategized from that point. Like
Mm-hmm.
2018 was a whole year of all these battles and everything, and 2019 was for me a purge. I just sat, I disconnected from everybody. They were like every single person except for like two friends and family, and I was off social media. I was just doing self work, me
Yeah.
and my kid. He also went for therapy. Like June, in 6 months, I was in a nice place. So I went back to Dubai for holidays, and I took my kid for therapy, which he enjoyed, and he really was able to deal with his stuff. He was 3 at the
Mm-hmm.
time, so he had like nice kiddie therapy and all of that. So I think 2019, like I had that privilege, I would call it, to take that entire year off and
Yeah.
just spend that time with my child. I know that everybody cannot do that, or do that. It's a huge gap year in the middle of your career and life. But I know that I had to do it because if I don't fix
Yeah.
those issues now, not it will harm me, it'll harm my kid, and it'll harm the
Yeah.
relationship that he has with his father and literally everybody else in his world. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Because as a single parent, I have to understand that I am enabling healthy relationships that my kid has. He learns that from me, and if I am like broken and all over the place, and I'm not healthy, and I'm having all of these unhealthy habits, he's going to learn that obviously. So for me, even though I was a high functioning anxious person, I was lucid enough to have some moments of clarity where I was like, no, I do want to co-parent. So I remember 2018, I sat down, I still have the journal somewhere. I wrote down my entire plan. And this time I will end this time I will end this, and then somewhere support
Okay.
groups started coming. Yeah. so
Yeah.
so because I'm that kind of a person, even professionally, I need those things. So even my personal life also, I used, see, you use the tools that you're familiar with, right? So
Yeah.
I used all of that, and by that's why November 2019 I was ready to start the support group. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was 2018 was a horrible year this year. Like I said, I completely disintegrated. I don't even recognize the person anymore that I was. But I think I came together in a much better place. Like all of
Mm-hmm.
us are co-parent. My ex-husband also did the same thing. He also took some time out and spent more time with his kid. And we worked on it. It wasn't difficult. And it's not perfect now, no way. But we're friends. We're civil with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We have conversations and that are focused around our child only. We don't
Mm-hmm.
get into
Yeah.
petty arguments, and that's very important. That was very important for me, even while I was breaking. That was very important, that my kid should not suffer for a decision that his parents made. That is very
Yeah.
unfair. A lot of single parents are not even in acceptance of or understanding of what a divorce is. Like, I still find myself explaining to people who are going through litigation for divorce what a divorce is. I tell them divorce is not just a paper that you sign that ends your legal relationship with your partner. It has to be overall. It has to be body, mind, and soul. You disengage from that person and you are yourself. So understand that. But that doesn't mean that your child has to do the same. Your child still
Yeah.
has a relationship, have the clarity, do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't blame and don't, because see, the one thing that I also understand is that it's not only one person's fault that a marriage falls apart. There's always some activity, like some enabling behavior or something which we are all have to be in acceptance of what our mistakes are. And
Yeah.
I tell single parents this, that completely disengage from that marriage, and after your divorce papers are signed, it's not about you and your ex-husband and your ex-wife anymore. It's only about the child. So make the child's life easier, because you have to understand how difficult it is for a child to navigate this. This is not a normal situation for anybody, because we
Yeah.
were not raised like that. I was at home the full time. I'm sure everybody else was, but for our children to have to handle two homes and then come back and handle strife also, what will mom feel bad if I say something good about my dad, or will my dad feel bad? That is too much load for a child
Yeah.
of whatever age. Make it easy for them. So parents have a lot of questions. Like, I understand where it's coming from, but they have to take a step back and think. Like today, one of my single moms, she got a divorce today, and already her fear is, what if my child goes to her dad's house and she doesn't want to come back?
Okay. Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I said, see, you have to have routines in place, like, and take it slow. Make it easier for the child, right? Who's going through that experience. We cannot protect them from everything, least of all their own father, because that relationship is going to
Yeah.
be there whatever we try, good, bad, or ugly. It's going to be there. So divorce is not the finish line for single parents. Understand that and accept that. I always tell that to single parents. Divorce, don't celebrate a divorce too much. It's not the finish line. It's a lifelong thing with your ex and their family, and all of that is going to go on, except that you have to be emotionally removed from that situation. So it's very important to do the work on yourself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to forgive yourself and to just say it's okay, and to allow your
Yeah.
child to have those relationships. Because I've met kids of single parents who carry so much guilt, and they come and tell me, like, sometimes I want to talk to my dad, but I'm scared to ask my mother, is it okay, because she might get upset. And I
Yeah.
was like, that is unfair. That is really unfair, that they have to ask permission to speak to the other parent. Then I have to
Yeah.
have a word with the parents and say, look, don't do that. Let them talk. So let go of that control that you have on the child. Just give them a safe space. Like now, my kid is with his dad now, so he's very happy there. When he comes back, this home should be exactly how it was when he left, safe, with all of his things here still, and where he can go and just rest. That's it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to ask him nosy questions. I know it's a lot of work in progress, but that conversation has to be had with single parents. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, single parents have to understand that it's a different situation. Whether you're living with your parents or living alone or whatever, you are a single parent.
There are lots and lots of challenges, and you've spoken about them a lot. There's also another challenge which I wanted to talk about, which is, the challenges of finding oneself and getting back on the dating scene. So what is different as a single parent in that case?
It's so different, but even within the community, the funny thing is, even within the single parent community, there are different schools of thought on that. Like, so I have personal friends of mine, and single parents in the community who think that they have to get back to dating as soon as possible, right? As soon as papers aside, because they're so scared of being alone, right? So they want to get into it soon, and that's how you will figure out your. So they'll have all these reasons, which is fine. And there's another school which I belong to, or I agree with, which says that no, do the work. See, there's a reason why your relationships haven't worked. Understand what we are contributing to that. What is the common factor in all those relationships is us. That means something we are doing, some behavior. Like for me, like I said, there was massive codependency, massive passive acceptance of stuff, and just so many things, so much unlearning. So there's this whole different viewpoints on dating, but it's very difficult because a lot of people are not willing to date people who have children.
Yeah.
And I don't take it personally, because I understand it's very difficult. Okay, because
Yeah.
for a single parent to make that time and to give that energy to another person, it's a huge ask. Like if I
Yeah.
have to do that for a guy or for another man in my life, it has to be exceptional, and I'm willing to wait for that. But that is my opinion. um, if anybody else wants to date, that they have the opinions as well. But what I do advise single parents who come to me is that be very clear on what you want. See, as a single
Mhm.
parent, we have to have incredible clarity on everything we set out to do, whether it is to migrate or whether it's to date or whether it's to even go to a supermarket, everything has to be pre-planned. And you know that's not my personal thing coming in there, but it has to be, because our lack of clarity will impact other people, that is our
Mhm.
children, right?
Mhm.
So if we just want to date for casual dating, that's fine, be clear about that, and learn those boundaries and learn those ground rules, and be loaded and locked on that. But if you're looking for a relationship, looking for a commitment, be clear on that as well. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's the way I tell people. So because you get very confused, like, what do I want? What do I do? This guy or this girl only wants me for sex, money, whatever reason. So no, what do you want?
Yeah.
Okay, and how does this impact your life? Is this someone that
Mhm.
you would bring back home to meet your kids or meet your family eventually at some point?
Yeah.
So the thing also, so just the thing also in India is that a lot of women don't have experience with dating. They've just
Mhm.
straight gone married. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
confusion around that. The only thing they know is that I don't want to be alone, because they've never been alone. If they've been with their parents throughout their lives, and then suddenly they get married, so they've never been alone. So there's so much unpackaging to do. So I tell single moms is just sit down. It's okay. Like, I've been single for 4 years now, and I've never been this happy in my life. It's okay. Ultimately, what is the thing? Is it, we have to be okay with being alone. It's not about being alone, it's about being okay with being alone, right? That
Yeah.
if I don't find someone, it's okay, that I am
Mhm.
happy by myself. So it's again a lot of unpackaging, and I advise single parents to do that, to do the work. Like, if you can afford therapy, or talk to a single mother who is a therapist within the community who will do it free for you, do it. Take
Mhm.
advantage of whatever resources you have in the community. And a lot of people do that, and they do find that it's a lot more easy. Like, they're able to let go of those conditioned thoughts and those feelings of guilt and shame around having casual sex. And see, dating is a whole playing field. It's not just marriage.
Mhm.
But those mentalities are still not here full-fledged in India. So for me, if you ask me, my opinion is that you have to do the work and have immense clarity when it comes to bringing another person in your life.
Yeah.
That person has to know what he's up to and what he has to contend with, and your
Mhm.
child has to be also comfortable around that person, and that person should not be, let's say, abusive or anything of that sort. And if you have a relationship with your ex-partner, they should also be in the know of who their children.
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
What do you think? Like, how receptive are people to the idea of dating? Or are they like really don't want to entertain that idea at all just because of the fear of the
Everybody,
society?
my god, there's that societal fear is something which is there. It's there big time still. Like, and even though they've gone through so much and they have zero support from society, they have such a fear of society. Like, it's fearing some mythical creature. Like, what is this society? And this is more in women who are from smaller rural areas, and they are trying to come up and be better and all of that, but it's a lot of work. But even for women who live in the urban bigger cities, it's there. Why? Because we don't get a lot of support in society also. Like, there's a lot of unfair judgment, and even when we get on Tinder, there are a lot of people who will judge us and send, like, unnecessary messages or pictures or whatever. So automatically you take personal offense. Automatically your
Yeah.
mindset is so vulnerable, you think, okay, I invited that, obviously I'm a single parent, what else can I expect? Because this is a whole new field of dating with a child, is something we are navigating. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
takes a lot of patience, just like everything else. And that's why I say, especially for brown people, there's a lot of unpackaging to do. There's
Yeah.
so many levels of conditioning. So if you want to be in a happy, fulfilling relationship, please work with your baggage. Put
Yeah.
it to rest. Just bury that stuff and just let it go. We are living in India, at least. We are not living in a society that serves us in any way as single parents. Okay, this
Hmm.
society does not is not made to accommodate my needs.
Yeah.
My
Hmm.
talking about single parents. So then why should I follow what society is telling me? Which society am I talking about? This society does nothing for me. you know
Hmm.
all these single mothers that I know, they're working, they're extraordinary women, they're doing stuff, they
Yeah.
have big jobs, big positions, most of them. And most of them are tax paying citizens. What are they getting back for
Yeah.
it? Nothing. There's no benefits, there's no rights, there's no inclusivity, nothing. So why
Hmm.
should I make myself small for what that society says? So as
Yeah.
single parents, We have to accept that we no longer belong to that society. We're never going to belong to society. Even if we get married again, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
be the first person who got married again. That's another reason why I built this community, is because this is where we can be ourselves.
Yeah.
We can be safe and discover ourselves and be brave enough to be ourselves in the real world at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So today we were having conversations about having equal pay or equal benefits and stuff in the corporate
Yeah.
sector. So those conversations within a single parent community is different from what it is in another community, okay? Because single
Mm-hmm.
parents don't get any tax cuts over here, as far as I have heard, and there is nothing, no benefits whatsoever for that lost income, okay?
Yeah.
And we don't even get high maintenance or anything. It's just absolute BS. So, but if we start that conversation somewhere,
Yeah.
sometime, someone will benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I want to add over here is that since I talk to a lot of people, most of these entitled people, by entitlement I mean people who are not single parents, okay? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're not aware, it means they're not aware of this situation, not negatively entitled. They don't
Yeah.
even know what we are going through.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even remotely aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but here I am sitting in my cubby hole, suffering, thinking that other people are making me suffer. So the truth is that 90% of this society that I'm so terrified of, they don't even know what I'm going through, because I don't even have the guts to talk about it. So
Yeah.
if I go
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow and say, look, I'm struggling with timings and stuff, or whatever basic stuff at work, let's start there.
Yeah.
That guy might be like, oh my god, if just hypothetically assume these things happen in this world here,
Yeah.
and take that risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people don't know. Like, a lot of people reach out to me as well on Instagram and say that we had no idea that these things happen till we read your posts. And is it really like this? And I said, it's not really. It's worse. It's not like that. It's even worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people don't know. So don't assume that society this that. No, we can't make those assumptions. It's
Yeah.
there, no doubt, but we have not dipped our feet into those new waters, so we cannot make a fair assumption on that. Is what I feel.
So, as we are talking about the societal pressure and also about the challenges at each and every point, no matter how small or how big it is. So, what do you think? Like, how can close family members, friends, and communities, what role can they play, a positive role in enabling the comeback of a single parent?
I think the biggest thing is to just listen from my perspective. Like I've had
Mm-hmm.
experience with my own parents or people in my own families that they want to help, but they want to help from what they can do. You know,
Yeah.
that they're listening from what they want to hear. So I would be struggling with something else, but they don't want, they do not have the EQ or the capacity to sort of take that. So they'll just be throwing things at me, which I don't even need. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I remember in the initial days, my parents would be like, Lala, are you okay? How can we help you? What do you need? And they'll ask me all these questions and stuff. And I'd be like, I'm broke. What can you do about that? So my dad
Yeah.
would get like
Yeah.
really, upset. He's like, you're broke. I'm there, and for as long as I'm alive. I said, that is not the solution.
Yeah.
That is not what I want to hear. For example, that is not what you're supposed to say to me. I'm not going to depend on you, obviously, to take care of me and my child. What can you do? That is just one example. There's so many things. They just don't listen. So when you're talking to a person from the single parent community, I would advise all friends, family, and communities to just sit down at their level and listen to them. Even if you can't help, just listen. See, sometimes I know what I need to do, but I'm just scared to do it because I
Yeah.
don't know if I have a safe space to go back and sit in. It could be that. So
Yeah.
communities, families, friends, just listen and be there, just learn, just absorb, right? Because I know from my own experience that a divorce changes everything, not just for me or my child, but within the families as well. Okay, not just immediate family, but extended families. Like I know my uncles, my cousins are very attached to my ex-husband as well. So for them, it's an adjustment. So I am aware that all of us are adjusting to this new change,
Yeah.
but I don't have the responsibility of making you feel better for something that I am suffering for every single day. You understand? So I don't have to sit there and console you. So
Mm-hmm.
take responsibility. So communities and families or whatever have to, I don't know what it's called, like societal consciousness, that has to expand to accommodate my needs.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be forced to make myself or my emotions small. But I don't know if I think it's happening slowly within the community. and
Yeah.
there's a long way to go to affect and impact legal systems
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. But I think the change starts from within our community, from
Yeah.
single parents. And
Mm-hmm.
I also talk to parents of single parents, and most of them just don't have it in them to, how do I say this, to take the noose of society off their
Yeah.
necks. They're so controlled and conditioned, they're terrified. And
Yeah.
I understand that it's coming from a place of good intentions. They're genuinely worried about their child, but it's not helping your child.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that fear is just holding back your child. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work.
Having started this community, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of people to be reached out to. So what is the message that you want to give to all these single moms out there, or single dads, or just in general, like parents, about anything that you would like to say?
I think to single parents, I just want to say, just forgive yourself. Try. Just, it's not about society, or it's not about anybody else. It's about you and your child. Just look inside your own home first. And if you look outside too much and give a ear to what people say, it's going to overwhelm you. Obviously, it's going to make you feel completely out of odds. So just forgive yourself and listen to yourself, listen to your body. And the problem over here, Divya, is that unfortunately, our children listen to us and they feed off that.
Yeah.
Especially the younger, it's even worse because they can't articulate. So if I'm crying, if I'm a broken mess, I'm not saying that we should not cry and be a broken mess, but don't make it a habit. See, at some point you have to just get up and get going.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times parents are so caught up in just talking smack about their ex-partners and ex-in-laws, and that's it. That's the rhetoric going on once in most single parent homes. There are people listening. There are children who are growing up in that toxic environment. So why did you leave your marriage if you're going to create another toxic environment here for the child? And then
Mm-hmm.
say, I left my marriage for my child so he could have. See, it's all so much of disparity in what you're doing and what you're saying. So to single parents, if I have anything to say, and I do keep saying it, is that please make the change for your child. At least if you
Mm-hmm.
can't do it for yourself, do it for them. Okay, I can be testimony to that fact. When I did the work, I took the year off, I healed my relationship with my ex-husband and with in my ex-in-laws and his family, so that my child could get that, not implicit permission, but he knows, okay, my mom's okay with it, so I can.
Mm-hmm.
It worked. My life is so much more better for that. Like now I have no worries about it. Conversely, if I had chosen to stay in hate or in resentment and anger, that would just fester into just lifelong, right? So ultimately, I think the example I can give is that we can just choose to be the captains of our homes. Okay, and we can very well go
Yeah.
into hate and resentment. That is fine if that's what you want to do. But just remember that if you choose hate and resentment, don't be surprised when years later your child shows those same tendencies, and your child also has broken relationship. And then don't say, "Oh my God, how did this happen?" Don't feign surprise then.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of parents, that's how I scare them into being getting help. So or else just choose the path of kindness, and just silence also sometimes. Just disconnect and just connect with yourself and your child, and just let them figure it out. See, because the thing again, like I said, is that children are navigating this by themselves. Okay, this is a new experience. They don't have, is my kid doesn't have any cousin whose parents are divorced. He doesn't have any friends whose parents, he's the only one. Okay,
Yeah.
so I tell him that initially, right from the beginning, I told him, anybody asks you, where's your dad, where's your mom, where's, like how nosy people ask, just tell them my parents are divorced. My parents don't live together, and end the conversation there. If anybody has a problem, tell them to come talk to me or to your dad. That's it. You don't
Yeah.
have to answer anything more than that. So
Mm-hmm.
enable your children, respect them, and allow them to handle their situations. We cannot mollycoddle them and protect them forever. How long will you keep doing that?
Mm-hmm.
So respect their decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Early on. Just tell them that if anybody asks you, answer. Tell them my parents are divorced or separated or they're living together or they're dead or whatever it is. Tell the truth and
Yeah.
communicate that.
Mm-hmm.
Always communicate with your children. And I think that is how the larger society also will change, is if that change begins from home.
Yeah.
So, and to other parents, what I want to say is that please be less judgmental. Please don't judge us for being single parents. Just see us as parents, just that we're doing
Yeah.
everybody's work. That's it. And we're just trying to make this thing move forward. And I get a lot of that from married, well, not friends, but married people that I meet. and there's so much insecurity. I'm going to, I don't know what. It's just always worst case scenario.
Mhm.
If you have a problem, talk to me or talk to the person, or just be mature about it, and just get out, leave the life of sin, but don't add to my grief. Okay, because I'm already dealing
Yeah.
with 100 things. We have so many things to do. I sleep 5 hours a day. I have a full-time job, full-time child. Please don't come and tell me I'm trying to have an affair
Mhm.
with your husband. That is the last thing on my, not even the last thing, it's not on my list. I've
Yeah.
heard that. I've heard that, for
Mhm.
example. And stuff like, you are so selfish. Why did you leave your ex-husband? We are all living with our husbands.
Mm.
And why would you do that? And then don't do that. Don't keep, triggering stuff in people, right? Because okay, maybe I've done the work, but to be fair, a lot of people haven't, right? A lot of single parents
Yeah.
haven't. They're still vulnerable. They're still dealing with a lot of stuff, and when
Yeah.
they have to hear this from lawyers, from friends, from family, from neighbors, from literally anybody that crosses their path, it makes you panic. It gives you all kinds of
Mhm.
memory lapses and all kinds of issues. So just be kind. If you don't have anything to say, don't say anything. Please just take your bags and leave. It's fine.
Mhm.
If you can't be
Yeah.
a good friend, don't be a friend at all. Go and come back whenever you feel ready to entertain a conversation. Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's like be mature. Like I've
Mhm.
had friends of mine who've grown up with me,
Yeah.
not grown up with me as in from a chronological viewpoint, but literally during my situation, they sat with me and they experienced stuff with me, and they expanded their understanding, of the situation, because they want to be in my life.
Mhm.
They were like, Laila, give us some space, tell us, let us hear you out. Not everybody, maybe like 4 or 5 people, but and that was my safe space, although they weren't here geographically, but it was my safe space. But
Yeah.
also I lost a huge number of people that I've known,
Yeah.
and those are the losses that happen when you divorce and you become a single parent. You will
Yeah.
lose friends, you will lose family, you will lose opportunities, your friends
Mhm.
will lose out a lot. But then, the question is, do you really want those people in your life, who are
Yeah.
judging you on your marital status? Like, how ridiculous is it even to say it? So
Yeah.
just be better,
Mhm.
choose better people. There are hundreds of people there, even to date, who will be okay eventually. If you're okay, everything will be okay.
And also you can meet a lot of new people through your page, as you have started, so that's always a good thing. And of course, like, there are lots of challenges, a lot of stigma that needs to be addressed around this, and I think you're doing a commendable job with your page, reaching out to so many people and helping them. So that's really, really great, and I'm very, very impressed by it, and I could actually chat with you for a much longer time. So we'll take up that conversation later, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
For having me, Divya. I really appreciate you being allowing me to be candid on this conversation, and accepting whatever I had to say in that spirit that I meant it. Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Well, this brings me to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Quick Mommy Hacks, and follow me on Instagram.